Okay, so day 5 or 6, I've lost count. I should probably look and see what day I'm on before I leave another one of these. Also, my sound was a little bit muffled last time. I'm not really sure where it comes out of. So let me just, I'll set it on top of here and maybe that'll help. So, anyways, um, I don't have much to say today, except for last time I think we were talking about 1984, which I did finish reading, and it was kind of interesting. Kind of like I had read snippets of it, obviously, watched the movie. It's not. It's a little like the movie, but obviously a lot of stuff was taken out to make it more palatable for a movie. But I kind of was surprised at how uh it kind of got a little, it was a little convoluted, a little kind of bloated. um I just was surprised. I mean, as far as I'm sure it blew everyone's freaking brain out of their head in 1949, as it should have. But as far as it being like this huge revelatory thing, like were some things in there that was clearly just it just reminded me of every um sort of postmodern book that I've ever been assigned, as far as its ethos or whatever. Um, but the thing that stuck out to me was that it's always so strange because the Big Brother stuff, the people who tend to use that terminology, the Orwellian terminology, are conservatives and people on the right. Like they see it happening, but this person, George Orwell, or which is an alias I did not know, that was clearly a leftist and a liberal person, but like the book points out, and examines and explores, you know, he was noticing the liberal tendency towards totalitarianism and just was kind of like WTF. And so I just find it interesting because these people on the left, he was also an atheist, which is also explains a lot about about the book. Um, they see it's a book by someone who is searching for truth, but has eliminated the source of truth, which is God, and so it becomes this sort of circular uh, exercise that lacks self awareness, which I was really surprised by because it is a very intelligent, obviously a very intelligent, um, observational, prophetic book, and yet to see him miss these huge points was really weird. The main thing that was really weird is this whole thing about sexuality, and like that sort of gave away to me what he thought. He must have thought that this totalitarian regime was going to be a Christian conservative regime or something. Like he's definitely, you know, I didn't know where he was coming from with it, having never read the book. I just thought, why would he write a book that would expose his own um, belief system as fraudulent and weird. Um, the more I learned about the author, but like that and V for Vendetta. It's like these people really think that Christians, or I can even see if you want to make an argument that the regime would take on a Christian tinge and become more whatever. But it's just so dumb and just shows a complete lack of understanding of what Christians are about and what we're trying to do. And it's just so retarded. So like he had it to where he put something in there about how sexuality is like frowned upon, and not so much the yes, to have families, yes, have children, and yes, you know the children are to be put into sort of this brainwashing campaign. They're to be handed over to the state and raised by the state. And he got that part right. But the idea that any regime is going to um, sort of try to put a stranglehold on sexuality is, talk about completely losing the plot. Like that shows such a lack of understanding of yourself, of humanity, of what um, control really is about. Like I'm just like, how? Again, I guess it's just taking for granted, how smart God is, because it's like there's no regime that's going to try and put restraint on your sexuality. Like not the world system. If they want to enslave you, they're not trying to control your sexuality. They want to loosen it. They want to let it loose. Like it's just so dumb. These people were so scared that their sexuality was going to be, it just makes me so mad and so annoyed to read that, because I just feel like being 40 years old, growing up with this paranoia that your sexuality is going to be restrained to the point where you might have to like shut up about it. And like people really think that this is the first line of defense against totalitarianism, is like being able to express yourself sexually. And it's so dumb. I feel like I wish that somebody would like raise him from the grave and bring him to see the world today, because this is someone who grew up in, he was born in like 1900. So he grew up in a Christian, a Christian tradition, a Christian society, culture. And he probably thought all of it was fine. In fact, he probably didn't even attribute most of it to Christianity. He's just like, oh no, this is what people do. This is just regular stuff. So all of the good stuff that Christianity brought, he didn't even attribute it to Christianity. And then he was like, man, if we could just get the our sexuality freed, we would be in such a better condition. And it's like, you dummies. You dummies. I mean, they've literally toppled all of society trying to get rid of the shame so that they wouldn't feel shame anymore for whatever nonsense they're trying to do, whatever filth they're trying to do. It's like, and to think that a regime is going to like actually, like there was one part where it said like the end, it was like the party is going to abolish the orgasm. It was like, what? I understand. And like the point was to um, sort of make it so that no one would have the ability to bond, that families wouldn't be strong. What are you doing? Are you plugging that in?
Yeah, what?
Okay, it plugs in my office. Close my door, please. Um, So the idea is that people wouldn't be able to create bonds and they wouldn't find any joy in anything other than the party. And they wouldn't have the energy. I mean, one of the girls, the girl that he has this relationship with is saying, they are trying to they know that if they let us like be sexual and have sex, like we won't care about any of this stuff, um and we won't have the energy to do all of their whatevers. Or yeah, I think it was something like that. And it was just like, what is this? Like, you guys really think that the sexuality is the key to something, that if you just like separate it from the marriage part, that it's going to open up a whole new world or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, it's 2022. Let me tell you, it doesn't. Like, it doesn't. There's a whole generation of people growing up who never had the restraint, who didn't get a chance to understand this concept of purity. Like, there's a part where, like, when they first finally find a way to be with each other, because it's, everything's being watched, they're under constant surveillance, and he's telling her, like, that he hates purity, and the more men that she's been with, the better. And like, he hates the idea of purity and all of this stuff. And it's like, what luxury you must have to be able to write that and have it be shocking to someone. Like, it must be nice to live in such a place, such an era of such stability and respect for an institution, that you get to write that and have it be subversive. Because let me tell you, all of that's gone, George Orwell. And guess what? There's no cartoon birds flying around. Now we're down to the kids. Now the kids are being put in the ads with harnesses on. The drag queens are trying to let the kids be on Grinder. No one's life is better. It's so obnoxious, dude. And no one's paying for the crimes. The push, they pushed and 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 pushed the boundaries of sexuality so far out, to to make sure that they encompassed every single person. And guess what happened? Then people started inventing shit that no one had ever heard of. It never ends, because it is not a clean, it's not sunshine and water, and like, your sexuality is corrupted. It's corrupted. You have to keep an eye on it. You can't just let it run wild. It's corrupt. It's like, no, this is not. No, if I just dig deep and if I just am able to say whatever I want, and I just, my real, no, 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 no. And like, how far do you have to go down the road before you realize that you're on the wrong road and you should turn around and go back? Like, I just feel like the world is this giant car that I am just forced to be a passenger in. It's like the right way is back that way. I can see it from over there. I'm just looking at the window, like, wishing I could be over there. It's so obnoxious, dude. I'm so tired of seeing this point of view in both past and present. Past in complete and total ignorance, and present in complete and total denial that everything is jacked and that they did it. So that's what I got from it. I just was really annoyed. And I was like, oh, he's trying to say that the totalitarianism is going to come from religion. And it's like, dude, you completely missed the plot on that, dude. No, it does not come from religion. First of all, it doesn't come from an object. It comes from a human. It comes from humans doing human things. Oh, we need to get rid of religion. Oh, we need to get rid of these type of words. Oh, we need to get rid of this type of programming. Oh, we need to get rid of that group. Oh, it's like, How many more things are you going to get rid of till you realize it's not the thing? It's inside and you can't get rid of it. You can only monitor it, bring it into the light, talk about it. You cannot get rid of a thing. It's just so stupid. So, yeah, so I was like, okay, so religion is clearly, then he had it to where, so Big Brother was this, because I felt like, you know what, this is a wicked person. Not that George Orwell, I don't think that he was particularly wicked, but the people who don't like truth, who don't like righteousness, who don't like the things that make this world tolerable and preserve it, the people who don't like that, they are in prison, and they have to walk around like this guy is walking around in this novel and pretend to go along and get along. And the proof of that is sort of his solution, which there's this whole thing about, it's really a mixture, because there's this whole thing about the shadow organization that is conspiring to overthrow Big Brother. Um, but he doubts that it exists because there's no way that it would be able to exist. Everything is monitored. Like any sort of off conversation or anything is going to be seen. So it's like impossible to conspire. This, which is an attribute of the wicked. The wicked has to have a tight rein on things so that things don't get out, because the wicked is darkness, and darkness is inferior to light. Light does not live in fear of darkness. Darkness lives in fear of light. So a candle can snuff out darkness. A candle can defeat darkness. A single whistleblower, a witness, a person who does not care about what the group thinks about what they have to say, a child, any of these people can say something to cause disruption to the regime. Okay. Christianity is not like that. I mean, a lot of religions really are, I won't say that. I don't know anything about other religions. All I know is that Christianity is not like that. Christianity gets put under a microscope, it gets scrutinized, it gets shaken, it gets questioned, it gets ridiculed, it gets mocked, it gets everything. And if people want to go, wow, that's embarrassing, I don't want to be a part of an organization that is just an embarrassment, then that's fine. But what we're not going to do is do that and make it impossible to question, because that's not light, that's darkness. So I was confused then when he finds someone that supposedly is part of this he finds somebody a part of this organization. He's convinced that now that it's this underground thing is real, and he meets someone who he thinks is part of that. And so they sort of have this secret meeting, and he's like, listen, um you have to agree to do whatever work you need to do for the movement, for this underground movement. That means if you've got to lie, or if you get captured, we're not going to come and get you. Like, um, you're just going to have to die for the resistance, and you won't know how far down the road we are to reaching our goal. Um, you have to be willing to throw the acid in the face of a baby and all of this weird stuff, which again is more darkness, which doesn't make any sense. Like, if you have a regime that is that controlling, what you do is you say the truth out in the light. And we know this because Christians already did it like 2,000 years ago. And what happened? They got tortured, they got killed, they got scattered, and the thing grew like really a lot. Um, so really what the book ended up doing for me was realizing what a miracle that Christianity is and how um, God works, because uh, I just thought it was weird that even him as an author would put that as okay, so the resistance is this even more underground secret thing that's going to be even more secretive, and it's going to be so secretive that if you die doing the work of the resistance, like no one's going to know, you're just going to die in secret because we're doing a secret thing and we can't give away our whatever's trying to rescue you and whatnot. And it's like, okay, now you sound like it sounds like you're the secret organization. It's like, it's like when Jesus said, um how can Satan cast himself out, when they were accusing him of being possessed by a demon. And it's like, a house divided against itself cannot stand. It's like, how are you going to fight darkness with more darkness? It doesn't make sense unless one of these organizations is darkness. And it sounds like it's yours, not the overarching one that you hate and are miserable in. But it had all of the trappings of it was mixed. It was mixed in a bad way. Like, there are just certain principles that didn't make sense that this overarching regime would have. I mean, it's the whole thing is built with lies, and it's I don't like there's no human organization. I mean, human, yes. Yes, there would be a human organization that would try to regulate everyone's sexuality. I can see that. But that wouldn't last decades upon decades. And then also there was a group of people that were sort of, I guess they were kind of like the lower class people. I can't think of who would be the technical term in communism terms, but they were like the lower class people, and it was like they were the majority. It was like 85% of them, and they didn't were not in had any intention of overthrowing anything. They just didn't care. They just were going about their lives. And he's in, I guess, the upper 15% somehow. And even though his life is pretty much miserable and he's in this totalitarian government dictatorship, and he can't they can't express, they've changed words, they've changed history, they've changed everything. It's demoralizing. But it was a mixture of principles, I will say that. But it was very obvious to me that all you had to do to overthrow this thing was to tell the truth and get like 5 people to be inspired by telling the truth openly. But you had to be willing to die. And that's something that he didn't have. And that's something that I don't think you can have if you're not a person of faith. And so when it got to the point where he did get captured, and there was some horrendous torture in store for him or whatever, and he ended up just confessing to a bunch of nonsense that never happened, and he um they were going to put him in a thing with rats, and he was just like, offering other people up to be tortured instead of him, which apparently is what you do. And so, and I mean, I've never been in a torture situation either, but I do understand that when you believe in God, and it's not just, it goes beyond belief. And That's what I realized when I was reading this book. I was like, oh, when Jesus said the kingdom is within you, which sounds like this weird, like new agey thing. I was like, oh my gosh. Like now I understand because I was after reading someone who did not have the kingdom in them at all. He was alone. He was alone. And when you are a human in that situation and you are alone, like and I guess that people who are alone like that, they assume that everyone also is, and that Christians are just delusional and we're just trying to like come up with stuff to make ourselves be happy in our aloneness. It's like, bro, no, someone's in here with me. Like God is real. So I realized like the kingdom is within us all individually. Yes, there's evidence of God out there in the world, in the creation, if you want to look for that. And yes, those are clues to get you to the kingdom, which then will reside in you, but it will only be in you. Like I can't bring you to it. You have to go, you have to make the choice, and then God comes and he's with you. And people don't understand that. They really think that they're alone in the world. When you're not a Christian, when you don't have God, they think that they're alone in the world, and they think you're alone in the world, but you're just loopy. So it's just really interesting. It's like, but God does it on purpose because, again, like I was talking about before, this is a testing place. So he is once you have once you have not say I won't say pass the test, but it's like once you have called on him, he is going to come to you and reside in you so that everyone else can still be on their test and still going. Yes, make disciples, yes, tell people about Jesus and whatever, but it's like you can't physically bring them to a place or show them something because they're seeing through their own eyes. So even if you try to show them, it's like it's just really interesting the system that he's got set up because Christians have already proven themselves in this situation. They can get boiled to death. They can be tortured. They can be torn apart by lions. They can be, whatever entertainment for people in the Colosseum. They can be crucified. They can be crucified upside down. Like we already have seen that, and we don't realize like that is really a serious, um, miraculous sign that those people went through that and didn't denounce their faith. I'm sure one or two people did, but that in and of itself was not enough. That had to that must have scared whatever regime was in power at the time. They had to be like, what is this? What is this? Because um only you can only be so crazy. You can only be so fire's hot. You know what I mean? Like this stuff is real. And so I think over time they've gotten a lot more savvy. The things that they use to sort of get Christians to denounce their faith, it's a lot more psychological than just overtly like let's hurt the body. But still, um, the fact that it can be done and the methods had to be altered is just like that's really an amazing thing. That's really evidence that there's someone with us. Like I feel like in that situation, not just like, oh, I'm going to stand up to the guy. I would never just, because this is where they ask him 2 plus 2, does it equal 4? Or does it equal 5? And he's, or is it, how much do you see? And he's like, I see 4. Like, I want to see 5. Like, he was just so scared and so not wanting to be tortured. He was like, I want to see 5, but it's 4. Like, I don't, like, please help me. Please help me be insane so that I can survive. And it's like we're so beyond that. Like I really firmly believe like it's a faith, but it's a knowing. It's not just faith. It's like I know, especially in that situation, like I can grasp. It's like I'm not going to renounce the truth. It's just not going to happen. And then it's like, and then we're done talking. They're like, whatever you're going to do to me now, I need to be in constant contact with God right now. So I'm done talking to you anyway. Like, I don't think people understand how little power they have over the Christian. The Christian is just doing what they're trying to do, what the Bible is saying to do, and what God is telling them to do. But if you push it to where you're trying to get us to denounce, like that's why that doesn't happen anymore, because it's like, don't get embarrassed. You're gonna get embarrassed. You're gonna win some people. You're gonna accidentally make some Christians, and they don't want to do that. So they don't do it like that anymore because they know what's gonna happen. They are the on the confrontation like that. They can't do that anymore. They got to do other things. They got to do bribes. They got to do compromising situations. They got to do, um, you know, blow you up and make you into a famous person so that you're just, that you won't do anything to harm your position. They got to do other stuff. They can't just do the full on, like, denounce your faith because it just is not, it doesn't work. Especially now, I really do feel like, um, people are thirsty to do something meaningful. So if it seems too poetic, if it seems, it's not going to work. So I mean, I'm sure you'll lose a couple people, but you're going to gain a lot of people, and that's the problem. Because this thing is always fluctuating, um, always gaining. And I think my mom was telling me the other day, like that she talked to somebody who lives in, I forget which part of, I don't know. I don't really remember the conversation, which is kind of good because it probably seems kind of dangerous. But, basically, there's an area where there's like 48 million Christians, I think was the number, was the final number. And I was like, what? Like, they don't tell you any of that, of what the number is in these places where Christians shouldn't be at. So it's never not, there will never not be believers as long as the earth is here, and as long as we're still doing this age and Jesus hasn't cracked the sky. um so yeah, so that's basically what I got from that book, is that God is amazing, which is what I get from most of my books. And that's the only reason why I read them, so that I can better understand God and how he's different from what man tries to say he is, or um how we're different from what man tries to say that we are. So it was really insightful though. The news speak, double speak stuff was just like amazing. Amazingly true. And it made me really want to go back and study these eras where, World War was new, and people were kind of like, what is this? They were old enough to be like, this is different. Old enough to have grandparents that remembered conflicts of the past and being like, what is this? So I want to get back into more of those type of classics, not the history, because the historians, God bless them, but the novelists have a way of capturing the spirit of a time, and it's a lot more informative to me as far as like what the prevailing attitudes were, things that we take for granted that are sort of just been covered up by time, which this book does a really good job of laying out too, because I guess it was starting to happen along during that time period too, where it was just like The past is just getting covered over, and you can literally put anything you want in its place. Who cares what happened? We'll just say it was this, you know? So, that, and it's 1949, it's just really crazy. So, I don't know. I might do a whole thing, like start reading the classics. I really want to get back into Kafka and stuff because I remember, um, Kafka being sort of like this kindred thing when I was in college. Like I felt really, um, connected to that material, and something about the office, because Orwell was the same way, where he worked in an office setting, and it was just like that's when it was kind of like new, this whole, um newish, this transition. There seemed to have been a transition, um where this kind of office bureaucratic, system came in, and it wasn't there before, and I don't think any of us remember a time where there wasn't something like that. And so, you know the Kafka-esque type stuff, I haven't really read, um the stuff where that comes from, like the exact, novel that comes from. But I really think I want to get into that. And Catch 22, I read. I It was a lot for me just because there was assignments attached to it, so I was like, oh my god, this book won't end. So I was really more concerned about getting it done than reading it. But and then I wish I had it on audio 20 years ago. I'd have like plowed through this stuff because I read 1984 in like 2 days. So yeah, I'm really interested in finding out more about kind of like 1900s ish, like what people thought the world was like, um, prior to, a little bit before, or maybe after the First World War or whatever. And yeah, it's really interesting. So that's my book report on 1984. I should probably change the title to this because it's basically all I talked about. So, God bless y'all. This one was a little rambly. Hopefully, I'll have something for y'all tomorrow. I'm sure you're very concerned. So, all right, that's it.